Welcome to Shoot the Ones, a weekly mixed martial arts podcast with two of your favorite Ukrainian hosts with the most. I am Dema.
And I'm Genya. Thanks for joining us again this week. We are going to go over the card from last night, UFC on Fox 24, Johnson versus Hayes, as well as preview UFC Fight Night 108, Swanson versus Lobov, as well as go over some of the recent news from this week. We gotta brag here a little bit at Shoot the Ones. We've received the most amount of support for our last two episodes as we have since we started this podcast. We're really tickled with the amount of support that we've received.
Yes, Genya, the amount of support has been overwhelming to say the least, and we really appreciate it.
A lot of cool people on the SureDog platforms, on MMA Reddit, MMA Junkie, people all over reaching out to us.
Yeah, and, that's always motivates us to keep going and get better with our product.
Yeah, I agree, man. We want to keep bringing them good art, good podcasting. And here at Shoot the Ones, we're always trying to improve.
Yeah, man. We want to get right into our first topic, which is UFC on Fox, Johnson versus Hayes, also known as UFC on Fox 24. Before we do so, real quick, our platforms are SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher, iTunes. You can also find us on MMApodcast.com. So what did you think of last night's event, man?
Yeah, man, for Fox card, I liked it, man. Not a pay-per-view, but it had kind of a pay-per-view feel with the high-level fights there towards the end. And the prelims really were fun to watch, man. A lot of up-and-comers. Zach Cummings looked real good. I liked the card overall.
Yeah, it looked stacked. It had a pay-per-view feel, like you said. A lot of exciting outcomes, some surprises. Top to bottom, it was a solid card. I give it a solid 8.5 out of 10, probably.
That's a fair rating. I would probably give it about the same. There were a couple bad spots with the reffing, like 4 or 5 throughout the card that we'll get into later. But
couple slow spots as well. Let's skim right through the prelims.
Yeah, let's go ahead. So we're gonna start from the bottom this time.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Caitlin Vieira won a unanimous decision over Ashley Evans Smith. Looked pretty good while doing it. Got to display her hands and showed she's a real contender. Came in as a plus 170 underdog and took the fight from Ashley Evans Smith.
Next fight, welterweight. Zach Cummings defeated Nathan Coy via guillotine submission in the first round. Pretty impressive showing from Zach Cummings. Kind of what we predicted on the show. Zach was going to come in there, impose his game, and do his thing.
Yeah, we predicted the first two fights correct. We also had Vieira beating Ashley Evans.
You did. Sorry to interrupt. I didn't. I had Ashley Evans there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I went 9-4 last night, but I bombed on the main event.
I did solid main event. I think none of us saw one specific outcome coming, which all kind of took us by surprise, which we're going to be excited to talk about here in a few minutes.
But back to this fight. Zach Cummings got the pretty nice looking guillotine choke, man. It looked real impressive. But what was interesting was you had Anik and Brian Stan yelling at the referee, "Stop the fight!" And it was primarily Anik. And I was telling you most of the night, I'm like, Dema, I've gotten to like Anik a little bit better. He's getting much better at his job. Wouldn't you kind of agree on that?
Yeah, Anik stepped up his game. His coming more prepared, and as you would expect, somebody shows improvement over time.
Yeah, but with that being said, he was calling out the submission to the ref, but I think it's hard to see for the referee if the choke is on sideways the way it is. But Coy was out for a couple seconds and had tapped, which the ref didn't see. So people are a little bit, that was one of the reffing things I was talking about. People are a little bit, upset about this one.
I hear you. What do you think about the next fight? Anthony Smith defeats Andrew Sanchez via knee and punches.
Man, Anthony Smith is a real veteran. I actually took him as an underdog in this fight. But Andrew Sanchez showed why he won tough. I mean, he was a tough out there. But Anthony Smith just stayed in there. He's one of those guys that gets in your face, and he's been having I think he's 3-0 in his last 3.
Yeah, that was a really solid finish. Kind of came late.
Yeah, he got the knockout in the 3rd round, I think with like 3 minutes in, something like that.
Yeah, 3 minutes and 52 seconds into the fight.
Yeah, it was a nice KO, but he was working towards it. You know, it was one of those things where he got Andrew Sanchez really tired there in the 3rd round, and that led to the finish more so than the one super shot that some of these guys look for.
Yeah, impressive showing from Anthony Smith.
Yeah, our next fight we had Devin Clark from Greg Jackson team taking on Jake Collier. And Dema, in this one, you can really see the advantage in the camps. Devin Clark trains with Greg Jackson gym, while Jake Collier trains from a much lesser known gym, and you can see the difference. Like even Brian Stan was talking about it during the fight. Devin Clark's got bodies to bring in, you know, to replicate every round, you know, having a fresh body. Collier's got to go out and look for, you know, guys to train with. And the big gap in wrestling also played a role in this. Devin Clark was a pretty high-level collegiate wrestler. I got this line at minus 145, and this was the fight I put the most money on this card.
Yeah, I think the caliber of sparring partners over there at Jackson's, you know, as well as their ability to put together a solid game plan really came through here.
Mm-hmm. Speaking about impressive, man, Aljamain Sterling in the next fight.
Yeah, kind of a fight we called here at Shoot the Ones. Aljo came and did his thing against Augusto Mendez. Decision, unanimous win for Aljo.
Yeah, he was pretty much in control most of the fight. Augusto did hit him with a punch in the 1st round and was able to, you know, Augusto Mendez is a real beast at jiu-jitsu. He was able to get Aljamain in some vicarious positions there in the 1st round. But Aljamain, to his credit, man, his jiu-jitsu is pretty good. He wasn't scared to get in there and get on top and throw punches against a pretty high-level Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt.
Yeah, he came in there and took risks and ultimately was able to avoid some of Mendez's threats on the ground.
Yeah, I would say this was the best performance from Aljamain I've seen.
Yeah, good to see.
Yeah, and keeping going with our accurate predictions, Tim Elliott over Louis Smolka.
Yeah, going into the preliminary card on Fox portion, quick question before we talk about this fight.
Yes, sir.
Did you like how the Fight Pass portion kind of packed their, their prelim card as opposed to kind of giving you 1 or 2 fights as they're known to do?
What was it, 3 or 4?
This was 5 fights.
5 fights, and then it was a 13-fight card, right? Yep,
yeah.
13-fight card, 5 fights. Then what was the prelims then? 3? Did they shorten the prelims? How's that work?
There was 5 fights on Fight Pass, the ones we just discussed, and there was 4 on prelim Fox card, and then there was 4
So they
on
just
main
eliminate some prelims and pass them to the Fight Pass. I guess it's the same then.
I'm just saying it. I guess they're trying to add to value that's Fight Pass.
Yeah, Fight Pass has not had as much success as I'm sure they would have hoped.
Yeah, just something to.
But I do hear like
ramble about for a minute.
From what I understand, people that are subscribers to Fight Pass enjoy it for the most part.
If you like jiu-jitsu or some of the kickboxing things they have to offer, there might be something there for you. Otherwise, if you're just a strict MMA fan, they have a really extensive library, which is cool. But as far as like live shows and fights, I think they only do Invicta.
Yeah, and to be fair, I'm not sure if I should say this on air, but if you're computer savvy, you can pretty much get it anyways.
Yep, that's very true.
With Tim Elliott, man, what a fight this was. Fight of the night, for sure.
Yeah, very exciting. Fireworks, even, fight between the two.
Back and forth, man. We had real dynamic ground positioning battle. Louis Smolka struggled with the same stuff that he's been losing with in his last couple fights, though. He was pretty easy to take down. And Tim Elliott's overall game is a lot more impressive than his prior run in the UFC. Like, I've watched him in his last couple here, and he's a lot. You remember when his first run in the UFC, Dema? He was a little bit sloppy. He was a sloppy fighter that took crazy risks all the time. He still takes those risks, but he's nowhere near as sloppy, the fighter.
Yeah, he's definitely a guy that improved over time, and it showed in his fight with Demetrius where he was able to give him some trouble, and definitely won a round against him, which goes that's a lot more than a lot of top contenders in that division can say.
Yeah, and speaking of that, for that fight, Dema, he started training with Joseph Benavidez, and he did it again for this fight. And when you're training with the clear number 2 in the division, the guy that's a well-established number 2, not just a number 2, a well-established number 2 guy, it's a good thing for Tim.
Yeah, he's putting it together, and it definitely showed this fight.
I agree, man. It was good to see. I look forward to seeing him in the future.
Next fight, lightweight division, Rashid Magomedov defeats Bobby Green via split decision.
I wish this didn't load so slow. I wanted to add something right here with his nickname. You know his nickname?
Who?
Rashid's.
1 second.
It won't load.
Nickname does not have a nickname.
See, my shit's just loading.
It doesn't have a nickname.
All right, I got it then. I'm just going to go in.
Yep, whenever you're ready about this fight.
Oh, was it split decision? I thought it was unanimous.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, Dema, Rashid Magomedov, he takes the split decision. We were real confident, and our bias played a little bit of a role, but also Rashid's striking is incredible, man. It's one of the best at 155, if not the best at 155. And the only issue he has in his game is a little bit too much passiveness. However, this was a split decision victory. Bobby Green did have some moments with his head movement. Another issue with the refs in this fight, though, Bobby Green got punched in the eye, and it hurt him real bad, and he took a timeout, said that he got poked. Never got poked. Another time in the fight, Rashid kneed him right here in the knee, or not the knee, like the calf area.
Kind of like thigh.
Yeah, the thigh area. And he just pointed to his nuts, and the ref stopped the fight. And that's twice the ref was not as attentive as
kind of like where the hip bone is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he hurt him twice with punches, and both times got it taken away by the ref.
Yeah. I did not see this fight, but I did hear that Rashid's body kicks played a major part to this fight.
Yeah, his body kicks were brutal, Dema, but body kicks and his kicking game and all. But Bobby Green was a good opponent for him. Bobby Green was ready with the head movement, and he did make it hard for Rashid. But man, Rashid's a tough customer in there if you're gonna stand there and box with him for 3 rounds like Bobby Green chose to do.
Yeah, man, good to see Rashid win. Good to see we made the right call.
Yeah, that's 8 in a row for us so far. Oh, we haven't announced 8 fights. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
7. Well,
7 for me.
You did pretty good.
I got to brag about the prelims because I sucked it up in the main event.
With the prelims. Me, I missed a couple here and there.
Yeah.
With the next fight, I don't think I had a clear prediction, but we saw... this guy's last name is kind of hard to pronounce, but Duquesnoy, I believe, was the right pronunciation. That's how Brian Stan said on air, I believe. So if I'm fucking it up, I do apologize. Tom Duquesnoy defeats Patrick Williams via TKO, elbow and punches in second round.
Yeah, and on the last episode, I told you guys a little bit about how this is one of the biggest prospects that the UFC was after, man. The Fire Kid, Tom Duquesnoy. I probably butchered his name, but anyways, the Fire Kid, he's the real deal, man. He's been doing this on the local scene for a while, man, just completely outclassing guys, outworking them. And that's what he did this fight, man. He's got a heck of a tank on him, a gas tank, that is. And Patrick Williams had a little bit of a layoff in this fight. And Tom just kind of put the pace on him in the first round. Did get dropped by Patrick. Patrick dropped him, and Patrick's a powerful guy. But at the same time, man, it wore him down. Like, he almost knocked him out at the buzzer of the first round, and he ended up getting the knockout 28 seconds into the second round with standing elbows, man. It was a little bit brutal.
Yeah, that was a hell of a fight. Kind of brought back some liveliness to this portion of the prelim card.
Yeah, and not as exciting fight, man, but the Russian guy got the win, so I guess we should be happy.
We should be happy because that's our countryman. But we did call Roy Nelson to win this fight. We thought Roy Nelson was gonna have a comeback here, but this was not the case.
Yeah, I thought he was gonna be able to use his veteran savvy, Dema. He's getting a little bit frustrating to watch fight, wouldn't you say so? Like, it's tough watching a guy when you know he doesn't have the energy level to get to his opponent. Like, he doesn't have the energy level to chase his opponents down. Like, he's got to hope that you engage in his game. Kind of like those guys that do jiu-jitsu that lay on the ground like, get in my guard.
Yeah.
Get in the guard. That's how Roy's got to fight. Like, come in my punching range. I want to knock you out. but in reality, that's not how it works, man. If you got a guy like Volkov that's moving around, and kicking you and stuff, he's not just going to get there like, oh, you want to hit me? Okay, well, let's fight here. No, he's going to fight smart the whole time.
Yeah, it was range that played a key factor to this. Volkov's, length and his quickness, his ability to circle around and move better than Roy, didn't really play into Roy's, constantly wanting to brawl style, which is a bit baffling to us.
What I was surprised with, and I knew Volkov's a good prospect with a lot of wins, but one thing that I was surprised with was he was hurting Roy. He was really laying the hammer to him a couple of those rounds, and he did beat him 30-27 on all the judges' scorecards.
Yeah, it was pretty decisive there. I feel at this point, like UFC's keeping Roy just so Bellator doesn't get him or something.
I think he's got fights left on the contract now.
Yeah, but you know how they go. They can cut at any time, and a lot of times they do.
Yeah, he's also a name to put out on the card. Like, some of these guys are pretty good, like Renato Macano, how the hell you pronounce his name, the guy in the next fight.
Oh, yeah.
They're pretty good, but at the same time, like, they don't have a name like Roy Nelson. Like, you put Roy on a bill, people are like, oh, I'm going to this card. I get to watch Roy Nelson. I get to watch Mighty Mouse. They're not saying I get to watch Renato Macano.
Before I get into this next one, and boy, I really want to get into this next one because I like to brag about it. I wanted to say Roy Nelson would be awesome in Bellator because they know how to market guys like that, and he is a bigger name, and he wouldn't have as steep of competition there, so it would be entertaining to see.
And because of what you said, the not as steep of competition, he's going to have guys that fight his kind of fight. Like, get in there.
Yeah, not as technical. They'll come in there and brawl, and Roy's got the power.
Roy, 2-3 punches, and you're going to realize it's not a good idea to brawl with him.
Yep. So, with moving on ahead into the main card portion, Renato Moicano defeats Jeremy Stephens in a split decision.
What would Brian Moicano do?
He would run a lot to win the fight, though.
Yeah. Man, it was a good win. It was a smart win. I'll give him credit first before I talk any junk. It was a smart win. It was not what I expected. I had Jeremy Stephens winning this fight. I thought he did win the fight at the end of the fight. The split decision went Renato's way. I'm okay with that because I thought it could have gone either person's way. Typically in the past, if you're the guy that's avoiding a fight, it's going to be fucking hard for you to, excuse my language, shoot the ones listeners, it's going to be really hard for you to get that judge's decision. But with that being said, he had a lot of moments in that fight that probably did get him the decision.
Yeah, man. I called this fight in Renato's favor, and he had a lot of moments where he came through and shined. I think first round he came and took over completely. He landed a lot of high impact leg kicks and really slowed Jeremy down a little bit. Whereas second round we saw Jeremy begin to kind of get in his groove and start to move forward and land combinations. Respectful of his power, Renato started avoiding a lot of engagements and, circling back to the center of the octagon a lot and pepper Jeremy Stevens from shots from the outside. He kind of stopped kicking in the middle of the fight, which was a bit surprising to me. Maybe not. He hurt his foot because he was throwing those leg kicks with some mean intentions. And the fight became a lot closer the further it went on.
Yeah, good point, D, man. Let's circle back a little bit to what I said to add on to what you just said. Even though I wasn't overall pleased with the style Renato brought, it's also a little bit on Jeremy Stevens to stop that. Like, he should have been making the fight a lot more dirty. He needed to get him up against the fence. You could tell he was the more powerful fighter, but he just didn't use it.
Yeah. It was a close fight, and, it was a good fight.
I agree. I'm not sure where it takes Jeremy in the grand scheme of things, but Renato's moving on up in the division.
Yeah, and an impressive showing against a veteran like Jeremy Stevens.
And Dema, man, we were all just sitting here wide open, wide-eyed, like, what the hell just happened, man? Could you believe Robert Whittaker took out Iaquinta?
Wow, what an impressive showing from Robert Whittaker.
Yeah, man, this kid's proven he's the real deal, man. He fought the perfect game plan pretty much.
Yeah, he was able to avoid the clinch and the takedown and ultimately the grappling and jiu-jitsu of Jacare, which is obviously his bread and butter.
Yeah, one thing I want to note, Jacare signed an 8-fight deal prior to this bout. I don't think any fighter goes in there like thinking that they're going to lose. They're going to do what they can to win. But I think that he must have had a creep of doubt in there to do the deal prior to hypothetically beating Robert,
That's a good point. That is something I came across a couple days ago. He did sign an 8-deal contract, a pretty lengthy one, which tells me he's probably has the intention to retire in the UFC.
Yeah, that's a that's a good point, Dema.
Considering his age, he's getting up there.
But did you expect for Whittaker to be so prepared for Jacare? I mean, I know that's all he's been doing for 6 to 8 weeks, but at the same time, man, it seemed like everything Jacare was gonna do, Robert was well prepared for.
Short answer, no. I did not anticipate this. A lot of people did not anticipate this. This came as somewhat of a surprise to a lot of the MMA community. But if you look at it, take a step and look at it from a side, he did have one specific thing to train for, and that's to avoid the clinch and grappling. If you can do that, your hands are good enough to get this guy and put him in trouble.
Excellent point. And he had to use it, man. He had Jacare on his back at one time.
Yeah.
Another time he used the wizard and grabbed his arm to get up. He used a lot of the techniques, to get out of there that he was well prepared for.
And he also had some strength to back it up. He was able to just shrug Jacare off of him at one point and turn away from the clinch, after which he began to really put the striking together.
You know how I've been doing my patented alligator on the pod?
Yeah, I don't think we'll be doing the patented alligator this time, even though you just did it.
Yeah, I just did it, but no, I wanted to lead that in with I've been, I looked on the internet, man. One of the funniest things I've seen with the fallout from this fight is like they're like, oh man, alligators know better than to mess with the Aussies.
That's funny.
I got a good tickle out of that too.
That's good stuff. Very impressive showing in the next fight as well. Rose Namajunas over Michelle Waterson. She wins with a submission choke in the second round, and in the fight where we kind of bet against each other.
We did bet against each other, and I lost. But that being said, man, I don't remember a female fight that I was this kind of giddy about in a while, man. These two girls had a really good stylistic matchup going, and they're both technical fighters. Rose is she's a mean gal, man. She's gotten a lot better than her Invicta days, man. Her improvement is vast from then to now.
Yeah, they both got skills and are specialists in their respective disciplines, whereas Rose is pretty tremendous striker. Almost caught Michelle Waterson with almost the same kind of kick that Holly caught Ronda with on the way out.
Mm-hmm.
And Michelle Waterson was kind of more of a grappling savvy.
Yeah, and if I were to give a breakdown on this fight, I would say that it was going pretty even throughout the fight, back and forth. Michelle had a trip, would get on top. Rose would land some good punching, but the second round was a different story, man. Rose came out like an animal, dropped her twice with head kicks, and that finish was pretty brutal, man. She got that choke in tight.
Yeah, she did it from the side, which is it looked painful.
And prior to this fight, man, I was thinking the Karate Hottie was going to have a jiu-jitsu advantage. I was wrong.
Well, I think when you mess somebody up, like with your striking, you can go in there and seal the deal.
That's a good point.
In a similar fashion to how we saw the main event breakdown, where we saw Demetrius defeat a black belt jiu-jitsu, specialist in Wilson Hayes, in such a dramatic fashion.
Yeah, I agree, man. Another recent one that was kind of like was Gunnar Nelson when he hit Alan Jaboyan and quickly got that sub. When you make a good point, man. When you're a little bit stunned, you're not really defending the submission.
And which, to their credit, Demetrius and Rose, they put their opponents in a lot of trouble before they were able to finish the fights with submissions.
Yeah, not only that, but they jump on the submissions. They know when they got you.
Yep, that killer instinct. They both have it.
Yeah, so you have anything else to add about that fight besides it was a great one, and congrats to Rose?
Congrats to Robert Whittaker, Rose, and Demetrius Johnson. He tied the streak to become have the same amount of title defenses as all-time high Anderson Silva.
Yeah, Dema, dominant performance by Mighty Mouse. He looked good over 4 rounds. Tying Anderson Silva's record, this takes him to 10 championship defenses in a row. One more will break the record.
Yeah. Do you think he sticks around, or he goes up and wait to take one of the more big money fights like he was insinuating?
Well, they asked him about that last night, and he said that he wants to stay at 125. He wants to break the record, and if Cody wants to fight him, Cody can come down and meet him, which I'm all right with. The only thing I'm not all right with is how the UFC and this whole matter is pretending like TJ Dillashaw doesn't exist. But that's another story.
I think a lot of people are overlooking TJ. However, TJ is going to be tied in. He's got a fight coming up with Cody in
UFC 213.
213. Mm-hmm. I believe we briefly mentioned that earlier.
Yeah, but he does want to break that record. I mean, he's pretty set on breaking it.
And that makes sense. So, yeah, I think he sticks around at least for one more fight in his division. He's the king. He doesn't need to move.
And I mean, he's getting a lot of his victories or finishes over pretty good guys. And he beat Wilson Hayes. He was a big favorite. But the fact that he armbarred him, and that's a jiu-jitsu black belt that he did it to, he's really making an argument for the greatest of all time. The only argument you would have against it is the level of competition, and it would be the level of the competition and the weight.
Yeah, I mean, he had him all kinds of messed up. He also had him in full mount, where he landed some very scary shots and ground and pound from, which led to that armbar finish. I mean, Demetrius Johnson
He's a beast.
He's a beast. Arguably, not even arguably, at this point, pound for pound, active fighter.
What's his record, like 26-2, something like that?
I
think he's only lost to Dominic Cruz and Brad Pickett.
Yep, those are the only 2 losses.
Yeah, and some people talking about maybe having a rematch with Dominic Cruz, which I'd like to see. You remember that fight at all? Dominic Cruz was doing some. I've never seen anybody do this before. He in that fight, Like when Demetrius tried to, wrestling throw him.
Yeah.
He would stick his foot underneath the cage to where it's like stuck in the cage. I've never seen it. Dominic does it all the time, but still to this day I've yet to see another fighter do it.
That's sneaky.
Sneaky, you might get your damn foot ripped off though.
Ooh, we did see something like that. Wasn't there a finish recently where somebody got their foot mangled up in the fence?
Ellenberger got his foot stuck. That was against Jorge Masvidal. Yeah,
that's the fight I'm thinking about.
And the ref rightfully stopped the fight because you can't really fight like that. So you're asking for the fight to be paused. You can't do that. So fight's over.
Yeah, man. All in all, really dope card, and one of many really, really stacked cards that are going to be coming up next. All right, guys. We'll be back with some fight announcements and recent news after this short break.
Shoot the Ones listeners, thanks for joining us again this week. If you'd like to advertise your product or brand to our fans, we can be reached at shootthe1spodcast@gmail.com. That's shoot the 1s podcast@gmail.com. Please follow us on SoundCloud, subscribe to our show on YouTube, and like and share us on Facebook. Thanks again for listening and your loyal support. And now back to your regularly scheduled programming. Welcome back, Shoot the Ones listeners. We had some more cards this weekend too, Dema. Bellator 177 had an MMA and a kickboxing card in Budapest, Hungary.
As well as Risen. Risen had a card as well.
Yeah, Risen 2017 in Yokohama. Kawajiri picked up a win on that. Horiguchi got a win. Good card overall. I don't know much. I didn't see it. Heath Herring was on that card. Did he win?
Was Charles Felony Bennett fighting on that card, or was he fighting in a different promotion in China?
He got knocked out in China, but
China.
Heath Herring did make his return on this card, actually. He lost to Ishii. You remember Ishii that recently coming off a loss to Rampage, which he probably should have gotten. The judo guy.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, you should know him.
Yeah.
But he got a win over Heath Herring on that card. Some pretty good names over there at Risen. Bellator 177 also had a card. Their big signing, Leandro Higo, fought for the belt. Lost in a split decision. I thought it should have been unanimous. Eduardo Dudu Dantes really showed that he's a skilled fighter, man. I kind of want to see him in the UFC's 145, see how he can do over there.
Yeah, man. Bellator had a low-key event in Budapest, Hungary.
Yeah. Then the guy with the absolute worst nickname in MMA, Daniel Drake Weichel, German fighter. He got the split decision win over Teixeira, which I thought should have been unanimous. The Ukrainian Lena Ovechkina, real pretty girl, man. She got a TKO stoppage over Helen Harper. Helen actually didn't even answer the bell for the third round. She got beat up so bad in the second round, her corner was like, threw in the towel. And Adam Borik's Hungary's own got a submission win, rear naked choke over Anthony Taylor.
Yeah, so Hungarians got to see their home countryman. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. Countryman win.
Yeah. Not a whole lot more with that, Dema.
Really low-key event. Bellator's kind of in line with what they've been doing these small cards internationally.
Yeah, and to add to that, from what I hear from people that were actually present, the MMA card was pretty empty in the arena. However, the kickboxing was really popping. They did have a kickboxing show right after it, which featured some pretty big names. They had Joe Schilling, Raymond Daniels on there.
Yeah, kickboxing is more popular in Europe, so that kind of event would get more traction there.
Yeah, I believe that was the only fight I actually watched on that card was Raymond Daniels getting that sweet KO spinning back kick on, I can't even pronounce this fella's name, Geoffrey Siezaba.
Woo, he hit him with that spinning shit.
Yeah, it was nice, man. Joe Schilling got a unanimous win. I hear good things about Bellator's kickboxing division.
Right on. It's interesting to see how they're kind of branching out.
Yeah, next we're going to go over... Oh, wait, we got to hit him with another break, don't we?
No. Because...
I'll break before the outro.
No. Next, we'll talk about some news and fight announcements real quick.
Yeah, not a ton of news this week. We got a couple fight announcements. Musaki versus Velikovic for UFC Fight Night 109. Aguilar versus Courtney Casey at UFC 211. And Travis Brown versus Olenek, the Russian fella that landed the Ezekiel choke last time out at UFC on Fox 213.
From the bottom, may I add.
Yeah, and interesting to see Travis Brown continue on getting chances.
Yeah, this is a good fight for Travis. Kind of come back and get a good get back in their fight.
Is this a must-win?
It should be.
I think it has to be, yeah, because if he doesn't win it, man, it'll be 5 in a row, 6 in a row.
Yeah, and some of them were knockouts too, so.
And I think the only reason that he gets to stay around is, 1, he's a heavyweight. 2, because he has proven to be exciting and has beaten some big names. I mean, he's got some killers on his resume, but his recent run has been shoddy at best.
Yeah, he's in a tough position. And it's a winnable fight for him if he doesn't make any mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Oh, Dema, you know what else I learned over this weekend?
What's up?
Did you know Robert Whittaker's nickname?
The Reaper?
Oh, where the hell did I hear Bobby Knuckles? It is the Reaper. What the
No.
fuck is Bobby Knuckles? I read that. I was about to call him that on the
Would
show.
you read that?
Bobby Knuckles.
I like Bobby Knuckles better.
Bobby Knuckles is cool. I think Bobby Knuckles. Okay, I'm gonna get back into the podcast. Dima, did you know Charles Oliveira was also suspended 60 days for jumping over the cage?
Yeah, that's a bit of a weird one. Yeah, I don't have much to add to that.
Yeah, it's a rule not a rule, kind of a norm they established back, I believe, when Jose Aldo jumped the fence. And they've been pretty consistent with punishing guys that do it. I remember Yoel Romero had about the same thing, and pretty much every fighter since. I'm pretty sure Conor McGregor also got suspended for it one time.
Yeah, I can see where they're trying to discourage it, but at the same time, I don't think he went off and ran into the stands in the same way that Jose Aldo did. But it's some petty shit, in my opinion. His suspension, 6 months, that's about the time fighters go between some fights. So
6 months? I think it's 60 days, actually.
60 days?
Yeah, he's suspended 2 months.
Oh, well, yeah, even better. He can get right back into it. The only thing that's going to suck is that $5,000 fee he's going to have to pay to the commission.
I said I think they have to pay earlier. I'm not confirmed that he actually has a fee.
Okay, well, if he doesn't have a fee, then it's all good. If there is any fee, that's going to suck for Charles.
Yeah, typically the guys would have a 60-day rest anyways prior to their next fight. However, this fight was pretty quick work for Oliveira. He took 0 damage, so I'm sure he wants to kind of get right back in there. So it is a little bit of a blow for him. But like you said, it's not major news.
Yeah. Do we have anything else?
No, I was thinking we were going to get right into the Artem Lobov Cub Swansons right after this break.
Hey guys, it's Dema. I wanted to thank you for listening to Shoot the Ones podcast. If you guys have any questions or have any comments, please reach out to us at shoottheonespodcast@gmail.com, or you can leave your comments across any of our social media platforms. Again, thanks for listening, and now back to the show. And we're back to your favorite mixed martial arts podcast with 2 of your Ukrainian co-hosts. We're going to quickly preview UFC Fight Night 108, Lobov versus Swanson, which is going to be happening this upcoming weekend.
Yeah, Demo, UFC Fight Night 108 with one of the most interesting main events of all time. And interesting, by what I mean by interesting, is weird. Like, why is Artem Lobov in the main event? With that being said, Cub Swanson deserves to be there. But they got some really good fights down the card and pretty low on the card, like Dodson versus Eddie Wineland, that I'm really tickled to watch.
Yeah, a lot of people are like, what the hell Artem is doing up there? But, it's obvious. They're doing Conor a favor here. Somebody's doing Conor a favor.
It's a little bit that, and he did get a win over my bitches in the last fight.
Yeah, but does that get you a main event? Even if it is a fight night? I think not.
I think they're it's happened ever since Tough. They threw Artem lost. They threw him right back in there. They're like, it's all right, big guy. And then he lost. He lost again on the show. They threw him right back into the finale and lost again in the finale. They really want this to stick. I mean, and the one thing he does have going for him that makes him marketable is he's got movement like Conor McGregor, and he's got, I guess we'll start top to bottom on this one, and he's got good punching power, which is easy to market when you got good power, but man, I don't see how he wins this one, Dema.
Yeah, Artem talked a good amount of shit and really, really, really campaigned for this fight. He gets what he wanted for, so I want to say he knows what he's getting into in some way, shape, or form. With that said, Cobb Swanson is a veteran with one of the most versatile games you can think. He's fought the absolute best in his division. He's been in there with Aldo. He's been in there with some of the
Frankie Edgar, Jeremy Stevens, Kawajiri, Hacker Diaz, and
thank you, Jane.
He just came off the fight of the year with the Wonder Boy, Dooho Chow.
Yeah, so, yeah, dude, a bit more than Artem can chew, maybe.
Pretty unanimous fight of the year, and man, every time Swanson's in a fight, it's an exciting one. So whether he just goes in and thrashes Artem or whatever happens, I'm anticipating a pretty fun fight.
Like they're both skilled. I don't want to talk shit about Artem, but the reach thing is gonna be a huge, huge point here in this fight.
And I think it's like a legitimate top 3 guy going against maybe someone at the 15 to 20 range.
Yeah.
Is kind of how I'm looking at this fight. Even though Artem's got skills and danger, I look at him as legitimately between 50 to 20 ranked in that division.
Yeah. And it's a really, really stacked division, so you got some killers there.
Yeah, 145 is pretty good.
I would say Artem has good movement. He has power. But he does sometimes has a bad habit of leaving his hands down, and Cub being the veteran that he is, I think he will capitalize on those openings and really piece Artem up. Maybe in the later parts of the fight where Artem slows his movement down some.
And don't get me wrong, I don't dislike Artem, the Russian Hammer, by any means. I mean, even though he's Russian and holds the Irish flag, which is just weird to me. But with that being said, the reason that I'm so heavy on Cub is he's just better everywhere. There's no place in this fight where Artem's going to be better.
Maybe Artem is younger. That's the only.
I think power is close.
He might be stronger.
Their power is pretty close, and that's about it.
Because dude's like a little anvil.
Yeah. Ready to move on, Dema? In our next fight, we got Iaquinta making his return.
Against Diego Sanchez.
Always fun, Diego. He's a madman.
Yo, he's a maniac. I think this is a main event for me.
You always say that about the co-main. Yeah, there's a lot of good fights on here. It is probably one of the more exciting fights. Iaquinta's coming in as a big favorite.
Well, to be fair, the last card, the main event for me was Whittaker and Souza.
Yeah. I agree. I would say the same for myself.
Yeah.
Because that's a fair point.
It's always
as fight fans, you look for that fight that you're really into. And
exactly, that's what I was getting ready to say. A fight card comes about, and you'll have a championship fight at the top always. But a couple fights down, there's always going to be one of those that really shakes things up and a fresh matchup that you kind of wanted to see for a while against top guys.
Exactly, and the win does a lot for either one of those guys. Like this win's going to take Robert real far, and I mean Luke Rockhold's calling him out. People are he's calling out Michael Bisping.
Even Bisping is kind of favoring this fight because this is a better fight for him than a Jacare fight.
Yeah, I think besides Whittaker, probably Bisping was the most happy with Whittaker winning last night.
And maybe UFC. I think they didn't really want to push Jacare, but that's another discussion.
Yeah, that's a much longer discussion. That I'm not sure with all the material that we're giving you guys that you want us to go on that long about it. But yeah, I agree with that, Dema. What do you think of this fight between Diego and Iaquinta?
I like it. It's going to be competitive, I think.
Yeah, Diego Sanchez is coming off of that win over Marcin Held, who everybody kind of counted Diego out, man. Didn't give him credit for his veteran savvy. They're kind of counting him out again here. I'm favoring Al Iaquinta in this one. I really like Al's game. If he comes back the same fighter that beat Kevin Lee, that guy,
yeah,
then he's going to be a problem for a lot of guys in that division. Diego, even though he's scrappy, he's good everywhere. His striking has always had holes.
Yeah, I hate to do some MMA math here, but I think if Al can beat Kevin Lee, I think he can take this fight as well.
Yeah, that Kevin Lee fight was a while ago. Let me double check if he even won it. Yeah, he beat Kevin Lee in 2014. That was correct. Unanimous decision.
He also has a win over Jorge Masvidal. So
before he got that weird retirement, he was on a nice run, man. 4-0. Beat Jorge Masvidal, who is doing big things right now, about to fight Demian Maia.
And then he also has a string of technical knockouts: Joe Lauzon, Ross Pearson, Rodrigo Dam. So
good fighter, man. I'm glad to see him come. He's one of those guys that, like, typically if somebody retires, I'm like, okay, somebody else is going to step in and fill that role. But he was one of those guys I was really sad to see go. I'm glad he changed his mind. I think he's got a lot of fight left in him. I think he's a potential superstar for the UFC.
Yeah, lots of potential, and he's got a good team behind him, good sparring partners, and I'm excited to see guys out of New York.
I agree. I'm a fan of that team as well. I've always have been. I haven't been a fan of what they've been doing ever since the Weidman fight. All the crying in the media and the already going back and filing. What do they call that?
Like appeal.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Sorry, I was not born in this country. But yeah, filing an appeal. You lost, man. You know. You lost fair and square. You tried to get the cheap way out, but you lost. I
agree, but look, if you're gonna stick with your story, you gotta stick with it, man. You gotta, play the part. And yeah. I don't think they're expecting much out of this appeal, but you gotta play the part.
Maybe I'm biased because I try to do a little foreshadowing in my head. If the ref didn't stop it there and let it play out, Weidman was maybe a minute away from being finished all the way.
Yeah.
Or he could have recovered, and that's where his team is taking issue.
Ultimately, I think the right guy got his hand raised, so that's good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there is also a possibility of a rematch down the line, so we'll see what happens. We're kind of trailing off this. This is we had
great
so much
fight,
to talk about over the last 2 weeks that we can just go on and trail off in several different directions.
Yeah, good point. Dema, have you given us a prediction for this one? I know I went with Al.
I think I'm leaning towards Al as well.
Okay. But really cool fight, man. Really cool fight.
I like it. Diego always brings it, so like I said, it's going to be competitive.
Mm-hmm. Our next fight, Marcos Rogerio de Lima, coming off that win over Jeremy Kimball, which we talked about in one of our first episodes, I'll Shoot the Ones. Versus Ovince Preux, who I believe his last fight was against Jimmy Manuwa, got knocked out. Is that accurate, Dema?
Yes, that would be accurate.
Good fight. Two light heavyweights. I think Ovince Preux is going to win this one. I don't have a lot to offer besides Marcos Rogerio de Lima's game is very limited from what I've seen. He's a real power puncher. He could definitely land the power on Ovince Preux. I just think Ovince Preux's got a better gas tank, a more versed MMA game. and just as solid of power.
I do have a correction. OSP's last fight was against Volkan Ozdemir.
Zakazan, yes.
The
Another
Kazan.
one we talked about on this show. You're right.
So, interesting fight. If I had to make a prediction, I would probably lean towards Rogerio de Lima. I just don't think OSP has looked overly too impressive lately, and this is another tough fight for him.
Yeah, well, since we disagree, maybe that's one of those I could get my money back next week from you.
Yeah, let's see what happens. I like de Lima's chances on this one. He's coming off of a TKO against Jeremy Kimball and has had, some really good fights in UFC.
He has. He had a loss there before Kimball, and you can't really compare Kimball's level to even the cousin. That what's interesting, Dema? The cousin, he's rated 6th in the light heavyweight division. That division is nuts. He beats a guy ranked like number 8, 7, 9, something like that.
Yeah,
and jumps to 6.
It's
How's
so
that
strange.
Work?
Because they're losing people out of the division. I mean, Bader just went over.
Yeah.
Who else just went over from light heavyweight?
Yeah, but with that being said, man, you look at Ozdemir, and he's not the 6th best fighter in the world, light heavyweight fighter in the world.
They just lost Nikita. They almost lost Misha.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a shit show, and Anthony Johnson just retired. So
just lost another one. Yeah, but they do got 4 real good competitors there at the top, 4 or 5.
Yeah, and then Gus and Teixeira are gonna fight out for like your number 3, I would say, because John Jones is gonna come back, and they are definitely gonna have that fight.
Yeah, after like the 4th, it goes from Shogun and just really trails. Like the top 4 guys, then you got Shogun and the rest of them that aren't beating those 4 guys.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, I have hard time, confidently betting on OSP after his last few performances. So we'll see what happens.
Fair enough. Next one of my least favorite fighters, Smiling Sam Alvey with the nice knockout power, fighting one of the guys I really like, Talis Leites, coming off a loss to Jotko. I'll definitely be rooting for Leites. With that being said, man, Sam Alvey's power has snuck up on some people. I'm looking at the Sherdog one. Which fight is next?
For the next fight I have would be John Dodson and Eddie Wineland.
Oh, I skipped way up the card.
Just lead in with next fight.
Oh, no.
Dodson and Eddie Wineland.
That is actually on the main card. Because I was bitching earlier, remember? Because I looked at Sherdog's list.
Yeah.
Ah, that is the fight. Okay.
Then Lauzon, Stevie Ray, and then Ellenberger Perry.
Yeah. Damn, this shit ain't even opening. Fuck, I gotta get it up on Wikipedia so I can be with you. What's that called? What's that called? UFC Fight Night?
108.
Okay.
We're gonna have a lot to edit this one.
Yeah.
So much giggling.
Okay, now I'm with the same order you are. Yeah, next on the fight, probably the fight that I'm most excited about on this one. John Dodson meets Eddie Wineland, who's been resurging in that division.
Yeah, this would be another one of those where I would be like, yeah, this is the main event for me.
It might be for me, man, to be honest with you, because I'm really having a hard time trying to call it, man. I'm a big fan of both of these guys.
Yeah, Dodson is lightning fast, always exciting, explosive, got some knockout power for that lighter division. And Wineland, like you said, he's on the impressive resurgence.
And super technical guy, man. Super technical in the stand-up. And he puts guys in some awkward positions and knocks out guys that typically don't get knocked out.
Yeah, veteran of the sport. And, low-key, one of the most looking forward to fights for us here.
Yeah, if I had to give a prediction, I'm leaning towards John Dodson. He's a really fast guy. He's a problem for a lot of guys. And it was his last fight, the loss to Lineker.
Yeah, a close fight.
Even in that fight, he gave Lineker a lot of issues. And I'm pretty big on Lineker. Even though he lost to Dillashaw in his last one, I still think he's a tough customer out there.
Yeah, I would lean with your prediction as well. But it would be important to consider. Wineland is coming off of 2 knockout wins.
And he's a beast. He's hard to bet against, man.
Yeah, I mean, he knocked out Mizugaki and Frankie Saenz. So
he's a real problem in there, man. And somebody that I've watched since, the WEC days. Like, he's been around.
Yeah, I would lean Dodson because of his explosiveness and his speed. But I need to check out the lines because maybe I'm gonna bet another way. Sometimes I'll call a fight one way, but if I see value in a pick, I might bet just to if I think the underdog has a decent chance.
Yeah, that's the problem with us giving some of these early predictions. There's no betting line, so my picks do change throughout the week, just like you said. When I see the betting line, that's typically when I make the final decision on who I'm taking. Eddie Wineland was a champ in WEC, wasn't he?
Yes, bantamweight champion.
Yeah, I believe he was champ there, man. He's win or lose, man. His career is very notable.
Yeah, he's already established himself pretty much as a legend.
Yeah. Joe Lauzon tries to bounce back in his next fight versus very good Stevie Ray. Stevie Ray, I think, is coming off a win also, right?
He is coming off of a win against Pearson. Split decision. It was a close fight.
I remember that fight. I did score it for him.
Yeah. I'm always excited to see Lauzon fight. He's one of those fighters that brings it.
Yeah, and if you remember Stevie Ray's fight before Pearson, he fought the Brazilian guy. His name is not really on my mind right now, but that's the kind of guys what Lauzon's good at, the grappling department, is kind of what got Stevie Ray in trouble in that fight, man. That Brazilian guy really put the juice on him and was able to use his jiu-jitsu very effectively against Ray. With that being said, I see Joe Lauzon career kind of trailing downwards. I'm going to pick Stevie Ray here.
That's a good pick. Alan Patrick, that's the name of the Brazilian fella that you're referring to in his fight.
Completely annihilated Stevie Ray in that fight.
Yeah. Now, with what you said there, you said he beat him using jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, he was able to really power him, and when he got him to the ground, his jiu-jitsu was on a... Stevie Ray's jiu-jitsu is a little bit lacking. It's not terrible, but it's definitely not on the level of Joe.
And Joe has some good grappling savvy, and this is what I think is going to be the key, and the reason why I would pick Joe Lauzon to win this fight over Stevie Ray.
Oh, cool, man. We're having some picks that are not the same again this week.
Yeah.
That's always fun.
I like having an opinion.
This is true, Dema. But yeah, man, it's cool when we don't agree on every single fight, man. I know sometimes that's one of the feedback we got, that we agree a lot on things. But at the same time, it's good to sometimes have some conflicting picks.
Yeah, and I'm a huge Lauzon mark, so there you have it.
Yeah, he's a fun guy to watch, man. He's had a good career. I try to pick fights without bias, so I'm going Stevie Ray.
Well, I did have a reason other than being a fan why I pick him. I think he has a nice jiu-jitsu game.
Mm-hmm. And we were talking a little bit about Ellenberger earlier on this podcast. He got his foot stuck in the fence. Was that his last fight?
That would be...
I think so. But in this one, he's making his return against Platinum Mike Perry.
Yeah, man, this is an exciting fight.
Yeah, Mike Perry coming off that loss to Alan Jabouin. Both these guys pack a lot of power. Perry's got a little bit of a gangster style. Don't move your head. Just get in there and throw bombs.
Just walk forward and keep throwing.
And I think Ellenberger will be much obliged to take his head off.
Yeah, both guys are savages and Mike Perry doesn't give a fuck, and like you said, Ellenberger will be happy to meet him in the middle and swing and bang.
If I had to predict, I believe I'm going to get Ellenberger at an underdog line to maybe even money betting. They haven't come out with the line yet on Bovada.
You think he's an underdog?
I think he's going to come in an underdog to Mike Perry because of the hype you fans put on him. With that being said, I think Ellenberger's going to take his head off, man. I think a couple of those huge shots from Ellenberger are really going to put Mike Perry on Queer Street, man. You can't just walk up like that in a fight. You got to have a little bit of head movement.
Yeah.
And Perry's just a sitting duck for his opponents.
I think both guys are similar, but Ellenberger is a little bit more experienced and a little bit more technical, which is why I would agree with you and prefer him in this fight.
This is the last fight of the main card. Gotcha. I forgot we're going top to bottom this one. But good fight, man. That's one of those, that's a crowd-pleasing fight right there. Ellenberger, Perry. You know you're going to get fireworks. You know you're not going to get much ground action. It's going to be one for the Just Bleed fans.
I like it. Even though it's a low-key card, this one has some potentially really interesting ones.
Yeah, we're running a little bit long, and some of these undercard ones, we don't have a whole lot of input, so we'll run through these a little bit quicker. Going on to the preliminary card, Thales Leites versus Smiling Sam Alvey. Why do I feel like we talked about this? Because I brought it up at the wrong point because I was looking at the shirt dog.
Oh, good.
Gotcha.
What do you think about it?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I'm not a huge Sam Alvey guy, but that's more of his personality than his fight style. He does pack a lot of power. He's surprised a couple guys. He's had some easy matchups. Let's be honest. He's fought guys like Kevin Casey in there. He's had matchups that were really geared towards him. Then he'll come up and do something cringeworthy on the mic. He has not fought somebody like Thales Leites during that run.
Yeah, Ladies is a definite step up and is going to test him in a lot of aspects of MMA game. Ladies also...
coming off a loss, right?
Coming off a loss, but I was going to say real veteran of
gotcha.
UFC. Also, real slick jiu-jitsu game. So, yeah, this one is going to be a test.
Yeah, Thales Leites is a tough customer. My predictions here is he grabs a hold of Sam Alvey and he dominates him from start to finish.
Same prediction.
I think that's how it's gonna go. Next, really impressive young guy, 2-0 in the UFC now. Brandon Moreno. He was picked 16th on the season of Tough that Tim Elliott won. He's had a good run in the UFC, and he's already fighting a ranked fighter in Dustin Ortiz.
Yeah, he's 16-3 and has been on somewhat of a tear where he won, I think, his last 8 or 9 fights.
Brandon Moreno, that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with that being said, Dustin Ortiz is also coming off his biggest victory of his career over Zach Makovsky.
Yep.
Who's a real tough guy in there as well.
That was a finish.
Yeah. If I had to offer my prediction, I think this is going to be a lot tougher fight for Dustin than a lot of fans are realizing. Dustin, I believe, is the number 3 ranked guy in that division. I might be wrong on that, but he's up there after beating Makovsky. He's pretty high up there, higher than Moreno. Moreno's also landed himself in the top 10. I think Dustin Ortiz, this might be one of the first times I bet on him. I think he's going to be able to avoid Brandon's jiu-jitsu game and really use his top-heavy wrestling game to win this fight.
A close fight, I think like a 50-50 for me, but let's make it interesting. I'll take Moreno here. It's really impressive. He's been on the tear, and
it's not a bad pick.
Yeah.
It's not a bad pick.
It's a 50-50 fight, so just let's make it interesting. We'll do 3 against each other.
Yeah, and like you said, he'll probably have the advantage in the jiu-jitsu department over Dustin. He's not going to have the advantage in the wrestling, and striking is going to be real entertaining. Who knows who's got the advantage there?
Good point.
Scott Hot Sauce Holtzman in our next fight versus Michael McBride. Dema, you might remember Michael McBride from his one UFC fight. That's the only way I remember him. He lost to Nick Lentz pretty thoroughly.
memory
Not
isn't
ringing
so.
a bell. Yeah, it wasn't. I don't think that fight was high on the card, to be honest. So you might have missed it because it was early on. I don't really have a lot to offer with this fight. I think Hot Sauce Holtzman probably gonna beat Michael McBride. I don't know a lot about Michael McBride's game because he didn't get to show a lot of his game versus Nick Lentz, and I didn't watch him prior to the UFC, to be honest with you guys.
I do not know much about either of the guys to make a good solid prediction, so I skip this one.
Okay, and in the strawweight division, we got Danielle Taylor. I believe she's 1-1 in the UFC. She had a really boring first fight, and the second fight she fought, I believe the smallest. I forget the Asian gal's name, but she fought the smallest Asian gal in that division, and she got the win. There was a little bit of controversy of her hitting the girl when she wasn't expected. Well, I think it was another one of those stupid. She called a timeout things, and Danielle Taylor kind of lit her up. Fair win, and she's fighting my future wife to be Jessica Penne.
Yeah, I think this is a good comeback fight for Penne, considering she's coming off of two stoppages against two savages in that division. One being Joanna, the other one being Jessica Andrade, who are going to be fighting for the title next.
Yeah, man, she's had a tough string of fights. She did win a fight on the Ultimate Fighter against Randa Marcos, but Randa's much improved since that time. And she had a really impressive record in Invicta, only losing to Frosto and the Karate Hottie. This is going to be a close fight, Dema.
I think it's a good comeback fight for her. I don't know much about Danielle, but if I had to take a pick, I would probably go for Penne.
Yeah, like my head is telling me Taylor's going to win this one, but my heart beats for Jessica.
Shoot the ones, listeners. Genya has a crush on
Lord.
Jessica Penne.
But in all seriousness, Penne's a dangerous fighter too, man. She can get in there with jiu-jitsu and cause problems for Taylor. I think she's an attractive gal. I'm going to be rooting for her for that simple fact. But, yeah, my head's telling me Danielle Taylor's probably going to win it. She's got good boxing, man. She's a compact girl. And I think her punches are, realistically, looking at this fight with no bias, I think her punches are going to cause a little bit of problem for Jessica, who's kind of struggles in the stand-up department. She's got a good grappling game. Her stand-up is okay at best.
Okay. It's a solid fight. I don't know much about one of the opponents, so it's hard for me to break it down. But moving ahead in the UFC Fight Pass portion, we have a few more fights. Alexis Davis is fighting Cindy Denois, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Also, a fight between Brian Barberino, Joe Proctor, Hector Sandoval is fighting Matt Schnell. Do you have anything to add about any of these fights?
Well, the girls fight, Cindy Denois, she's a pretty big prospect. She's good, but at the same time, that the girl that's been wrecking house there for years is Tanya Evinger, and Tanya Evinger has beat her. So it's kind of weird the UFC is giving her a pass while not giving Tanya, and I know why. It's because Tanya's personality is cringeworthy, and at the same time, Tanya's kind of a bitch, man. She's talked bad about the UFC. Like, why are they just gonna give her a platform when you talk? She's one of those girls. I think she's had the skills for the last 5 years to be in the UFC, but I think she's been blackballed because of what she said and because her personality is a little bit. It's like the Hicks love it, the old tap out wearing shirt folks. They love it. This new age fan, they're not huge on Tanya Evinger.
I got you. As far as her opponent, Alexis Davis is kind of in a similar spot as the last gal fight we discussed. Kind of a veteran coming off of a loss in a comeback fight, which is good for her stylistically.
Yeah, it's hard to predict this one because I don't know much about Cindy. I do know Alexis Davis is a legend of the sport. I think she rebounds. With her fighting Sarah McMahon last, I think Sarah McMahon things are finally clicking for her, and she's becoming the Sarah McMahon we all expected with her background.
Yeah.
I'm leaning towards Alexis Davis, Joe Proctor to beat Brian Barberina, and Hector Sandoval to beat Matt Schnell.
Same predictions, pretty much, except for I don't know much about Hector or Matt, so I'm gonna leave that one alone.
Okay, fair enough. But good card. No huge names on here. I guess you got John Dodson, Eddie Wineland. That's pretty big. Cub Swanson's up there. So you got a couple guys in the top 3, 4.
Iaquinta, Sanchez is going to be a good fight.
Dustin Ortiz is a pretty high rated guy. But with that said, they did a good job matching up these guys, and I'm excited about the card.
Yeah, man. And it's going to be kind of an excellent one to stay active and lead into the big one that's coming up in 2 weeks from now.
Was that 211?
Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. We're gonna have a nice preview and show for that one.
Yo, I'm gonna be especially more excited for the 211 preview, considering how stacked and I'm a huge fan of some of these guys that are gonna be fighting in 211.
Yeah, that's perfectly fair, man. When you get a card of that stature that comes around, us real MMA fans are gonna get pretty darn excited about it, more so than a card like this weekend. And I'm not trying to disparage the card from this weekend. I think it's going to be a heck of a lot of fun, and like you and I, we wouldn't miss a fight for the world, because like even a card like this, it kind of helps you get a picture of the MMA landscape, like who's going to be where in a couple of years, who's on the come up. If you missed that card last night, then you wouldn't know about Robert Whittaker and what kind of potential he has in the middleweight division.
Yeah. And, this is kind of one of those cards where guys like Whittaker potentially build themselves.
Yeah, Dema, good points. This was a fun show, man.
Yeah, man. Excited to bring you episode 12. We had a really, really good time, last week doing our anniversary episode, also following up with real shortly with episode 11, doing the preview for the card that we just discussed.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was the time we released it, but we had a lot of success with episode 11. A lot of people were really excited to hear our preview. A lot of people messaged back telling us about how much money they've won using our predictions. It's a good feeling.
Yeah, it was really exciting to bring you guys all of this content. Again, check our platforms. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube. Leave us any comments. If you have any questions you want us to answer, you can use the aforementioned platforms to get at us as well.
Yeah, thanks again for listening. All the support has been tremendous. We feel really good about it. Originally, we weren't master podcasters, but we're getting a little bit better at this, man. It's slowly but surely coming along, and I think the part that we've always had the most trouble, we're a little bit older heads. Social media is not really our thing. We're kind of learning that as we go, and it's been nice, like, hearing from people, and like the cool thing I've learned is there's a lot of MMA fans that are just like us, that a little bit dorked out about it and just want to discuss this stuff.
Yeah, man. Like you said, we're learning a lot, and we're kind of getting more savvy with the social media, and it's helping us feel young again. So this is good. As far as the progress of our podcast, we felt like we started complete noobs, like white belt level. And, I don't want to brag too much.
Just two fans.
Yeah, but after this episode 10, I feel like at least we might be maybe blue belt, and if not a blue belt, we might have like a couple of stripes on our white belt at this point.
Yeah, I think we've gone from beginners to at least amateurs.
Yeah.
Far from professionals. We're trying to grow with everyone, but that's kind of where you guys help out, man. We really appreciate the feedback, like I said earlier. Yes, thanks for shooting the ones with us again this week.
Yeah, thanks for shooting the ones with us, guys. And your favorite co-hosts from Ukraine,
Dema and Genya, out.